Well, do we have a big show for you this week? A twofer again. And this is the almost like a continuation. It's from his story to our story plus 20. It's going to be a long show. Buckle up. Lots to listen to, lots to take in, lots to ponder, and a few hammers along the way. This is the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Enjoy the show. The whole world is watching. There might be a lot more listening as well, and further afield. But this will be the longest show in terms of words in THI, our story. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. And having covered the Aryan narrative from his story to our story plus 20, that told the more modern story of the Aryans, this show goes back in time again and reveals more of the origins. This is more the story of how the Rus and Aryans met their gods at the time called the URS, and also how they engaged with them. The story of Peron, the leader of the gods, alongside his wife Tara. But this is a story of potential and hope, and also a reminder of how far we have fallen as a collective peoples, not just the white race. This is not a show, it is a life lesson for us all. Take note of it, embrace it, and integrate it into every fibre of your being. The Santi's Peron Vedas. This is an adapted translation from the Russian language to English, some of which I don't agree with in terms of translation and our modern way of interpreting words, and corrections will be pointed out and made along the way. It has been pointed out by a few members of how close this narrative is to things spoken to and about in various THI shows, and this despite me having never read the full Santis. Only a small portion of them that was covered in From His Story to Our Story, parts 1 and 2. And the objective of this translation is to spread the vital information about the Aryan culture throughout the whole planet. And God Peron in Santi 9 Shlok 143 said, "Only by uniting all kings by ancient faith will you defend your beautiful Midgard." Now the Santi Peron Vedas, the Book of Wisdom of Peron, is one of the most ancient Slavic Aryan sacred legends saved by sages keepers of the ancient Russian Yinglistical Church known as the ARYC. And Santis in the original could be called a book only figuratively, because Santis are plates made of noble non-rusting metal on which are inscribed ancient Aryan runes. That's Aryan with a H in front of it. So that'll be different to many people. All of which sounds like the CDT plates we covered in the Cosmic Genetics series. Now, ancient runes are not letters or hieroglyphs in our modern understanding. Runes are secret images storing huge amounts of information, which sounds like a crystal form of storage to me, and also like a modern-day USB stick. Now, this ancient runic form of writing hasn't disappeared like many other ancient alphabets, and continues to remain the main form of writing of sage keepers of the ARYC. Now, in ancient times, Aryan runes were used as a basis in creation of different simplified forms of writing. Ancient Sanskrit, Devanagari, Anglo-Saxon and Germanic Scandinavian runes and various other runic inscriptions. But in order to save the Hegerian runic form of writing for our descendants, it is taught in theological seminaries of the ARYC in order that ancient wisdom would not disappear in hard times and we would be passed on from generation to generation. Now, to imagine what Santis look like, you should remember that every Santi consists of 4 plates. Each plate has 4 shlocks, 2 on each side, and every shlock has 9 lines. 9 will come up quite a lot. And every line has a single upper celestial line, under which are written 16 runes. 9 Santis on 36 plates makes up 1 circle, and these plates containing 144 shlocks are fastened together with 3 rings. 3 rings resembles the atom shape, and it is also a soul development upgrade symbol. 9 circles of Santis containing 1,296 shlocks, or 11,664 lines, or 186,624 mutually controlled Hegerian runes. And they make up image-bearing collections which is called, since the most ancient times, Veda. Now the Norse word Ada probably originates from the word Veda, but that was never confirmed. And it should be noted that all those figures I've just mentioned all equal 9 or are derivatives of it. Now the word Hegerian, Aryan with a H in front of it and apostrophe, is new to me, and H is often left silent in modern languages. Could this be the reason? Now my pondering led me to the H being from the Hebrew white race. Now content of the Book of Wisdom of Peron has a form of a dialogue and was written nearly 40,000 years ago. And this was at the time they were bringing in the colour races to mix in and bring down the white race. And this is not the trigger for colour races to react or feel shame or guilt either. It is what it is, and my belief is they were all brought here as slaves. Now what happened in the past should not be reflected in the now. Now in the first circle it is told what commandments gave to the nations of the great race and heavenly kin god Peron about forthcoming events over the time of the Svarovich circle and the 99 circles of life, which is 40,176 years, and many other. But the Book of Wisdom of Peron is only a small part of Aryan heritage. There are many more Santis, but they are kept hidden by sages keepers due to strategically important information which can't be released to the public at this moment. Maybe this will initiate furthermore. Now, first translation to modern Russian language from Hegerian Karuna, the ancient Hegerian language since the foundation of the Aryan Asgard in the summer of 106,772 BC. Oops. That's going back some time, isn't it? And the translation was done by Slavic sages in 1944. So 106,000 BC was around the time that war came and destroyed it all, which we covered in parts 1 and 2 of this series. Now the Asgard Irian, Irian, known as the City of the Gods on the river Iri, Iry, as God living on earth, was a garden city that was built in the summer of 5028 from the Great Migration from the Arya in 104,778 BC. Was that the real Garden of Eden? Now, in its place is now the modern city of Omsk, also located at the confluence of the Om and Irtysh rivers. And Asgard Irian was destroyed by the Dzungars in the summer of 7038 from the creation of the world 1530 AD. The Asgard of Irian had successfully resisted all invaders for over 100,000 years, and 130 years later, the Russian cartographic historian Semyon Remezov, making maps of Siberia, having visited the site of the destroyed Asgard, he wrote to the Tsar Alexei Mikhailovich Romanov that at the merger of Omi and Irtysh, it is necessary to restore the destroyed city. Now the Dzungars are from Dzung Arya, the northern part of Xinjiang, China, close to the border with Mongolia, which is the clue. That was the Genghis Khan descendants, the Mongols, who went all the way to Turkey. Now, remember from an earlier episode of them killing a world record number of Iranians in one day. 1.75 million slaughtered by these alien offspring. Now in 1598, part of the clans moved from the various skeets and scuffs to the new town of Tara, where they united into a single clan community. Now the city of Tara was founded in Leto, 3502 or 2006 BC, before the Second Dravidian campaign at the confluence of the Iri and Tara rivers. Now Leto is the mother of Apollo, and the connection to the Norse gods, Greek gods and the Rus and URS all worked together long in the past. The Norse and Greek gods combined to wipe out the negative giants of the past, some of whom were known as the Titans. But after the Tara riots in 1772 AD, many members of the community were executed by order of Peter I, and the survivors fled to Erminsk Skeets, which is Skeets is like a name of a region, Sketes. But during the reign of Catherine II, the Old Believers' younglings moved to the place where Asgard stood. It was already the city of Omsk, built in 1716 on the site of the destroyed Asgard. Now in 1722, when by decree of His Imperial Majesty Peter I, a Romanov, all Russian subjects were ordered to take the oath, and then some disobedience followed from the Tara citizens and was counted for a rebellion. And therefore many Tara residents received the death penalty. For example, cutting off the head, hanging by the ribs. Others were impaled and pacified by punishment. And at this time, up to 500 houses of the best citizens were then torn apart. And from that time, the city of Tara has lost its former power, beauty and people. 200 years later, these same off-world usurpers, did it again in Russia, known by this time as the Bolsheviks. But did you know that the Romanovs are not really the Romanovs? They are the Holsteins. Because in 1741 Elizabeth became the Empress of Russia, and she was the daughter of Peter I and therefore a Romanov. But she never married and had no children. And still an heir had to be selected, so Elizabeth chose her nephew, the son of her sister Anne, Peter Holstein. Now Peter's full name was Charles Peter Ulrich of Schleswig-Holstein-Gottorp, and Peter hailed from the Duchy of Holstein, the northernmost region of Germany, which for some reason was fertile ground for Russian nobility. But after Elizabeth's death, he became Peter III, before he was usurped by his wife Sophie of Anhalt-Zerbst, also originally from Germany, and she changed her name to Catherine. And she was then succeeded by her son Paul, who was succeeded by his son Alexander, and so on to Nicholas II, and end of the Romanovs, where it really was the end of the Holsteins. This is in World War I. I wonder, does the trustee know that? Now, the same thing he marked on the 21st page of his drawing book of Siberia, which was published already under Peter I in the summer of 1696 AD, and 20 years after the publication of Semyon Razumov's drawing book of Siberia in 1716 AD, by decree of Emperor Peter I, the Omsk fortress was built at the merger of Omai and Irtysh rivers, which later became the city of Omsk. Now, about the Asgard of Irian is said in the world-famous and universally recognised source, the Saga of the Yinglings. The country in Asia to the east of Tanakh Vizsla is called the land of the Asers, or the dwelling of the Asers, A-S-E-S, and the capital of the country was called Asgard. The king was called Odin, and there was a big cave there. Why? Because caves are to and from gateways for dreamtime travelling or by location. Now, the 5 Asgardian heritage of the ancestors mentions 5 Asgardians. 1. The Asgard, the heavenly ancestral home of the white humanity. 2. Asgard of Arya, located in Arya on the northern continent on top of Mount Mira, known to other peoples as Mount Meru. Now, that mainland was divided by rivers into 4 provinces: Swaga, Hara, Ray, and Thule. I think the Americans call it Thule. While according to legends, the rivers did not flow out, but flowed in, as if rising to the top. And there was an inland sea or lake in the centre of which was the Mountain of Peace, and on its top, Asgard. That was the Arya. The Asgard of Iria was founded in the summer of 5028 from the Great Migration from Arya in the month of Telet on the 9th day, on the Feast of the 3 Moons at the confluence of the holy rivers Iri and Om. And this city became the capital of Belodvodya, the legendary country of freedom in Russian folk legends. Bolodvodya is defined as a legendary land, the spiritual centre of the ancient faith, and also the White Brotherhood, a paradise located somewhere in the east. Now at present, many people think Bolodvodya, now in Tibet, and I never, called Shambhala, because there are mountain rivers that have a white colour. And in addition, Tibet is a mountainous eastern country. But it's interesting they name Tibet, taken over by the CIA, and potentially it could be called the House of Orange, given the coloured garb they wear. Are they usurpers? Now, at the same time, many believe that the centre of the ancient faith and White Brotherhood is located at Shambhala, and the very concept of White Brotherhood stems from the degree of purity of spiritual aspirations. You see, nothing to do with colour of the skin. It stems from the degree of purity of spiritual aspirations. But it's interesting, going back to Tibet and the Buddhist language, of how they use the tone Om, which is the Russian river of one of the Asgards, and the city of Omsk. Now, some authors identify the astral home of the Aryans and Slavs with Bolodvodya, and in some spiritual sources it is called as the 5 or 7 rivers. And at the confluence of the sacred rivers of Iri and Om, near the great temple of Inglia, known as the Great Temple of the Sacred Primary Fire, at the sacred stone Alatya, which descended from the heavens of White Man, the divine chariot. Now, the divine chariot is a craft that is also referenced in India, Indonesia, and also Greece. Iri is mentioned as white, heavenly purity water, all of which sounds like the milk ocean, which now lies below the Himalayas. But the great temple was built of Ural stone and was 1,000 arshins, or 2,333 feet in height, from the base to the top of the Alatya mountain. It was a huge pyramidal structure of 4 temples, one above the other, located in the centre of the circle of the temple building. 2 temples were above ground and 2 underground, as above, so below. Now, in the lowest temple sanctuary, there was a labyrinth consisting of a large number of underground passages and also galleries. And these were underground passages under the Iri and Omu. Now, in the storerooms of the great shrine temple of Inglia, there was a huge amount of treasures of the holy race. Number 4, Asgard of Sogdian, the power of Sogdinia, or Sogdiana, was built to protect the southern borders of Rusinia, the holding on which the great race settled. Now, Asgard Sogdi was located in Asia Minor. Many researchers believe that the capital was Ashgabat, but researcher Viktor Sherbakov believes that this is the city of Nisia, near Ashgabat. Now, the soldiers of Asgard of Sogdia gave a worthy rebuff to the troops of Alexander the Great. And after the defeat of the troops of Alexander the Great, he was escorted to the priests in Asgardia of Iria, and this is what Nizami described as in the Iskander name, which is the name of another book. And proof of Sogdinia, as it's now called, resides on old names. It lies between the Oxus, Amu Darya, and the Jaxartes Syrdarya, Syrdarya, Syrdarya. Now the fifth one, Asgard, Svityodsky. Asgard illuminated by the light of Odin, that means. And it was located on the territory of Scandinavia. And after the Great Fire, the merchants brought some disease, cholera or typhus, plague. When Asgard burned down, a new city called Uppsala was built in its place. Now we all know who the merchants were. The Hebrew Jewish, as they're called today. Yet again bringing proof it was they who started all the plagues, including the Black Death. Now since then it has been republished several times, but in very limited number of printed copies, which were available only to communities of ARYC. And the last publication came out in summer of 1999. But only in the 2000s the book got spread via the internet, where it gained high popularity and approval among Russian-speaking truth seekers. Now the author of the book, who translated it, did a frequently asked questions and other important information. And it said, why should I read this book? Now the reply was by the author, if you are a white man, that is your duty to know your roots, your true gods, and the way of Aryan living. White people will never win this war without the true knowledge given to us by Aryan gods, our creators. 2. What is ancient Russian Yinglistical Church? Well, the ARYC is a union of people who follow one of the branches of the old faith called Yinglism. And the people who follow it are called Yinglings, and the mention of Yinglings can be found in the Heimskringla or the Yingla saga. Now, according to the ARYC, the word Yinglism comes from the word Yingliva, the approximate translation of primary divine fire. 3. What is old faith? It is faith of our white ancestors, which was dominant until the period of Christianization. It's also known as Norse religion, although it is not a religion, but rather a code of knowledge, which shatters the piece we did on the Rus Chronicles, trying to tie in Christendom and Orthodoxy into the Rus knowledge. 4. I know about the Hindu Vedas, but what are these Vedas? Why do they have the same name? In the old times, when the white people lived as one race and spoke one language, our culture was spread throughout the whole planet, and it left its mark on many nations, including Hindu. Even now, when all languages are confused, we can see the obvious similarities, like with the word Veda. In both Hindu and Russian, it means knowledge. 5. How can you prove the genuineness of these Vedas? Can you show us the original source? The answer was we can't, and there is a strong reason for it. Alien enemies have been destroying Aryan knowledge since Christianization of our lands, and they're still doing it. That is why it is hidden. Moreover, nobody can prove the genuineness of other sacred books like the Bible. It's funny that no one questions the authenticity of that book, isn't it? Every other book gets questioned or banned. 5. Who are the Aryans? Mainly humans with white skin. There are many other genetical factors, but the white colour of the skin is the main one. The Iranians are not white-skinned, yet they are Aryans. Iran means the land of the Aryans. And now you know why the Israel puppet countries, America and Israel, wishes to attack Iran so much. 6. Why do you use swastikas? Are you Nazis or fascists? Swastika is the most ancient symbol on the earth and our most sacred symbol, and inherently it has nothing to do with Nazis. However, Aryan faith does share many aspects of the Nazi ideology, especially concerning the purity of race. Not because of politics, but because of common sense, and also because our gods told us so. 7. What does swastika actually mean? Where did it come from? It is a cosmic symbol, but you'll have to understand its meaning on your own. 8. Who is Alexander Hainovich, and why do I have to know him? Alexander Hainovich is the leader of the ARYC. He is the man behind the last publication of the Slavic Aryan Vedas. He didn't translate runic texts, but he wrote commentaries for old and unknown words. He is considered by many Old Faith followers in Russia as an unofficial leader. However, Hainovich never agrees to it. 9. There is a white genocide going on. Why the hell should I spend my time on this strange book? This is not just a book. It is an instruction given to us directly from gods in case of the events which are happening on Midgard right now. White people are unlikely to succeed without this knowledge. 10. So I've read the book, got the point, what's next? Well, if you've read the book and understood its sense, you should spread it as far as you can and propagate it everywhere you can. You may not find approval of many people around the world, but there is no doubt you will find those who are capable of understanding the truth. Now, the following is a series of texts known as the Santis. Not surprisingly, there is 9 Santis and a total of 144 sections, which is also divisible by a 9. But before we start these texts, it is important you should understand the key points of the story. There is some advanced extraterrestrial civilization whom we call the Aryan gods. The author says we don't know for sure where they came from and when. That was the translator. But we know that they were behind creation of the white race on this planet. Now, the author may not know, but we do. These gods, which just means that they are advanced, soul-developed beings, not the God or source, came from Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. This planet itself, as I understand, was created in Ursa Major and brought here many, many years ago. My understanding is it is not 4.5 billion years old, but 13.5 billion years old. Although some have said as much as 23 billion years old. And these beings were known as the URS. They came to teach the Rus, and they were the direct progenitors of the white race on this planet. The white race itself originated in the constellation Lyra, going back to the dawn of creation 950 billion years ago. In ancient times, on the North Pole consisted a continent called the Arya, that was also known as Hyperborea, Thule and Avalon in the past. The Aryan gods and the first white humans lived there, and then something happened and the continent got destroyed. We covered the how and why in parts 1 and 2. And so most of the inhabitants moved to the Eurasian continent. And the Book of Wisdom of Peron describes the events which happened after the destruction of the Arya. The first circle, complete Santis of Peron Vedas, consists of 9 circles. Every circle tells about one of 9 days when nations of the great race held conversations with the god Peron in Irian, Asgard. This song may trigger some people. Keepers of the flames, the primary sacred fire. Right, the first Santi. This first Santi brings life lessons and how to be, plus how to avoid your own descent into the pit of an alien making. It reveals who they are, where they are from, and also what they stand for. 1. When in the city of gods in the Irian Asgard, on confluence of the sacred rivers Iri and Om, near the great temple of Yingliva, at the sacred stone Alatia, which descended from the skies in Vitmanas, the divine chariot. The sacred stone came from the skies. The great radiance and blaze surrounded it, and when it went down to earth, the flying divine chariot by which the gods and humans travelled between earths. Yes, we travelled in spacecraft. There also existed Vitmaras, big flying ships capable of carrying up to 144 Vitmanas inside. And in Hindu Vedas, such ships are called Vimanas because of distortion in translation from Aryan language to Sanskrit. 2. Gathered met near the heavenly Vitmana. Aryan, Aryan, Rusan and Svyataurus kings. Kins. Leaders and warriors of all kins of the great race. Now the 4 initial kins of the white race, they differed from each other by the colour of their eyes. It was suggested that, but unconfirmed sources state that Aryan had green eyes, Aryan had grey eyes, Rusan had brown eyes, and Svyataurus had blue eyes. And the colour of their eyes are explained by a colour of a star, which shined in a system from which each kin arrived. Now the heavenly kin and the great race, in the text for some reason the 4 kins are divided into 2 groups. The great race, the Aryan and Aryan, and the heavenly kin, Rusan and Svyataurus, were joined together. But even though such classification exists in many parts of the text, these 2 terms are used as interchangeable synonyms. Also, the word Aryan is still a general name for all people of the white race, although used in the names of only 2 of the initial kins. Also, there are called witches, although I suspect wizards. the silver-haired gathered and the sages most wise, the wise keepers of Aryan knowledge and the priests of the united God. Now the united God is the eternal and universal God, the united Creator, whose name is Rama, R-A-M-H-A. And it is an incognizable essence, radiating life-giving light, and the primary fire of the universe, known as Yingliva, from which appeared all existing worlds. 3 gathered met, took seats in rows around the Vitmana, and hailed the gods for many days. The Vitmana opened, and they got out of it in the flesh, the light heavenly God. 4 uttered the god ever charming, which is Peron. I came from Ure, earth. URAY. And the planet Ure is in the system of the eagle of the Svarovich circle. Now the eagle constellation is Aquila, and the circle is the celestial equator. From the heavenly Svarga, where the bright Iriri flows in the gardens of Viriri near the heavenly Asgard. Now heavenly Svarga is the whole of the Milky Way galaxy, where the bright Iri flows, is describing the spiral arms of the Milky Way. And out stepped Peron, Thunderer, Svarog's son. Peron Thunderer, one of the main Aryan gods, who is the son of Svarog, the grandson of Vishen, the father of Bog, and Bog means God. And it should be noted that their relationship is not based on bloodline. They are holding special positions, and family addresses like son, father, grandfather are representation of hierarchical structure of the Aryan civilization. Even their names are most probably just titles of their positions. So one day the most worthy of us will succeed them. And Peron said, listen people and warriors of the human kins to my words, to exhortation of my words listen. Ratibor, the warrior of the Civiatorus kin, spoke to Peron and said, tell us, bright leader, is there any death for warriors of our kings? 5. Peron answered to the warrior, there is no death for warriors of the heavenly kin, any evident or covert doubt of heart. God Vishen, keeper of worlds, and Vishen was the local top god at the time, the father of Svarog, and my grandfather, best of all the wise, will settle. I know the wisdom of gods is eternal. That who becomes teacher, even if they have acknowledged the great secret, is not blamable by gods, for there is no death for them. And then people asked Thunderer most wise, tell us, Svarovich, why priests of the united God and pilgrims of gods, by acknowledging Vedas, want to achieve immortality. Tell us, is there any death in the world of Yav, or everything is immortal? Which is truth out of these two? Now Svarovich in ancient times was everyone who came from space. Like comets and meteorites were also called Svaroviches. Now the world of Yav, Nav and Prav needs to be defined. Yav is the world of humans. Prav is the world of gods, and Nav is the world of darkness and evil gods. Now, the word world here means not some separate and unachievable world or place, but rather a set of interrelated things. 7 answered Svarovich to them, both are true, but only in delusion singers teach about death. I do call death deceit, but not immortality I call deception. In self-delusion legs perished, not by deception immortality is achieved in Prav. Death is not like a fox devouring the living, perceivable form it does not have. You observe death in environment, but you won't find it for yourselves. Now, legs, originally Legi, L-E-G-I, were the messengers of gods who informed the people of the race about the will and the advice of the light gods. In Christianity, fallen legs are called angels. Now, there are names honouring them, like Oleg, the grandson of Leg, or Olga, the granddaughter of Leg. 8. Other people think that Udrazek, the god of the dead, is different from death, and your road into the world of Prav is immortal. It stays in your souls and spirit. The same God reigns in the world of the ancestors. He favours the good, but with not good he is not favourable. And by behest of Ud-Urzek in human children manifests anger, delusion and death, which take greed's appearance. 9. Self-misled human will never achieve unity with soul. In power of death, lost humans go this way, and when they die again and again in the world of Nav, they reach. When their feelings go astray, that's why death is called Marina. Marina is the goddess of death and winter. Marzana is the Polish and Slavic form. That won't please one of our members. Anyway, the tradition of burning or drowning an effigy of Marzana to celebrate the end of winter is a folk custom that survives in the Czech Republic, Poland, Lithuania and Slovakia. 10. Carried away by their deeds in chase of its fruits, they continue to go this way and don't overcome death. Instead of tending towards righteous aims, as conscience calls, human child born on Midgard will circle in ring of enjoyment, and on this way death awaits it. Circle in ring. Loop. Midgard is the ancient Aryan name of this planet. 11. This great delusion of feelings, merging with futile aims, moves towards hell on the futile road. Affected by connections with futile aims and thinking about them day and night, your innermost self will begin to worship outer world of Yav, which is hell. Originally, Peklo is the world of darkness. Outer world of Yav is the externalization theme again. You need the inner world of the self and Yav. 12. In the world of Yav manifested through kin, the first thing striking people is desire for another's. which soon entails anger and lust. And these three dark products leads foolish people to death, but in the world of Yav, only firm people in whom governs conscience with firmness always defeat death. 13. With directed thought, disquieted feelings appeasing, with neglect you should fight them. There is no death for such, for they have overcame with knowledge passions and surpassed death. But a human longing for lust, following passions, perishes. But having defeated vicious desires, human blows off all dust of passion. 14. For all beings and humans, hell seems to be pitch darkness. With insanity they rush with unconcern to their downfall. But to a human who has renounced madness, what can death do? But that who refuses to possess ancient knowledge, let him not think about anything else, as if he had got rid of his life power. Knowledge enables to do and be more than you all thought. A lack of it enables you to be harvested and become a slave. 15. Anger, greed and delusion of innermost self are death, and they are in this terrestrial body. Human who has acknowledged wisdom, his gods and ancestors, knows that death is born this way and death does not scare him here. In his field, death disappears, just like disappears mortal when getting into field of death. 16. Then Odin, the warrior of the H-Aryan kin, asked Peron, tell us why sages say that they are performing bloodless sacrifices. Humans can achieve bliss, worlds of prav, purest, everlasting. Now the Vedas call them the highest purpose. Who knows this? How should he deal with it? Bloodless sacrifices is all about being service to others. Santi 2. This Santi is all about striving to and accepting the wisdom only achieved by purity, internalizing and spiritually developing oneself. 17. Answered to Odin, Peron, ever the charming, said, only those who have not acknowledged great ancient wisdom aspire there, and it imports to them what is told in the concealed Vedas. The one who is free from vicious desires aspires higher by means of the highest spiritual development, rejecting vicious ways of development. No shortcuts. In other words, those who live with purity will automatically gain the knowledge and the higher wisdom. It means there is less researching and the knowledge comes to you. 18. You live by the laws of Rita and by laws of God Kin, the united creator. For by these laws live all worlds and earths in all universes, all of which was created by the great Rama. They don't know death, because death and darkness have left those worlds, and light and immortality have filled with beauty their lives. Now I think the word immortality meant something more different than today. The immortality of the past is the eternal nature of the soul, but technology and the dark forces took over the word and changed it to living permanently, hence no life, death and rebirth cycle. And all that was done via illusionary technology. Those pursuing power and greed opt for the modern immortality program via the Metatronic coding. Rita is the heavenly laws of purity of race and blood given to humans in ancient times. Observance of laws of Rita saves the race from degradation, degeneration and extinction. God-kin means the personification of all light gods and ancestors, and worlds and earths are galaxies, star systems and their planets. Earth just means an inhabited planet. It is not the name of the planet itself. 19. And said Hari, sage most wise, our light protector, give us your wise commandments to human kins, descendants of the heavenly kin and the great race, so that truth triumphs on Midgard earth, so that falsehood vanishes forever from our world and no memory is left of it whatsoever. Now truth is the true laws and orders of the world of Prav. Falsehood, deceitful laws and orders introduced from the world of darkness, leading lost humans away to hell. And these laws and orders are complete opposition to truth. Now this is where the self-mastery kicks in, as you have to be truthful to the self and all others. And surprisingly to most, once you self-mastery is attained, it makes life a whole heap easier. 20. Answered Peron Thunderer to sage most wise and to all who gathered to listen to him. Cognize my commandments, people, hear exhortation of my words. Honour your parents and support them in old age, for as you will support them, so will your children support you. Good luck at that where I'm concerned. Anyway, I digress. 21. Save memory about all ancestors of your kins, and your descendants will remember you. Protect the old and the young, fathers and mothers, sons and daughters, for they are your kinsfolk, wisdom and colour of your nations. Foster in your children love to the sacred land of race, so that they would not be tempted by foreign wonders, but could create wonders themselves, more wonderful and beautiful for the glory of your sacred land. Now, nations means races, not countries in the Vedas time. 22. Don't create miracles for the benefit of yourself, but create miracles for the benefit of your kin and the heavenly kin. Help your neighbour in his trouble, for when trouble comes to you, your neighbours will help you. Do kind deeds for the glory of your kin and your ancestors, and you will acquire protection of your light gods. 23. Assist with all your powers in building temples and sanctuaries. Protect God's wisdom, the ancient wisdom. Wash your hands after your deeds, because those who do not wash their hands lose God's power. Purify yourselves in waters of Iri, the river which flows in the sacred land, to wash your white body, to sanctify it with God's power. And it also perhaps is signifying water is the source of life. and the fact that this planet has living water. 24. Consolidate heavenly law on your land, which the light gods gave to you. Honour Russell days. Observe God's holidays. Do not forget your gods. Burn in glory of your gods' incenses, and you will acquire goodwill and the grace of your gods. 25. Do not offend your neighbours. Live in peace and concord with them. Do not humiliate dignity of other people, and your dignity will not be humiliated. Do not offend people of other faiths, for God created is single over all planets and over all worlds. 26. Do not sell your land for gold and silver, for you shall curse upon yourselves, and there will never be forgiveness to you. Protect the land of yours and defeat all enemies of the race with weapon right. And that was a warning about and against the trading shekel people, who used to trade as a means to gain power. 27. Protect kings of Rus and URS from alien enemies, who come to your lands with evil intentions and weapons. Do not boast of your power before battle, but boast of it after battle. Keep in secret wisdom of gods. Do not give secret wisdom to pagans. Now, protecting the kings of Rus and URS, it is told about some kind of vulnerability that THI and HI kings don't have, but Rus and URS kings do have. Pagans are adherents of a different faith religion, which shatters the myth that Rus, Aryans and slaves were born out of paganism. They weren't. 28. Do not convince those people who do not want to hear you and heed your words. Protect your temples and sanctuaries from desecration of pagans. If you won't protect the shrines of the sacred race and the faith of your ancestors, years of sorrow and suffering will visit you. Not convincing people is an important lesson. Remember, we are here to plant the seeds only, not to grow them. 29. That who escapes from his land to foreign in search of easy life is apostate of his kin, and there is no forgiveness for him, for gods will turn away from him. Do not rejoice at others' sorrow, for he who rejoices at others' sorrow is calling it upon himself. Do not say spiteful things, and do not laugh at those who love you, but answer to love with love and acquire protection of your gods. Love your neighbour if he is worth it. Now, love your neighbour if he is worth it. This commandment implies that you should love and respect only those people who are worth it, but not everyone, including enemies like Christianity teaches. 30. Do not marry brother, his sister, son, his mother, for you will anger the gods and ruin kin's blood. Do not marry black-skinned, for you will defile home and destroy your kin. But marry white-skinned, you will glorify your home and continue your kin. Women, do not wear manly clothes, for you will lose your femininity. But wear what you are supposed to. Do not marry or mate with black-skinned in today's offended by everything crew, will be seen today as being racist. And yet racism does not exist in its traditional form. It is geneticism as to why we mistrust each other, and that also explains this particular stance. It is not offensive or demeaning. It's just that the mixing goes against the race's best outcome. Now, diversity is fine by choice, but sadly, since these were written, diversity means to destroy one race of humans. 31. Do not dissolve marriage sanctified by gods, for you will go against the Lord of God, the united Creator, and lose your happiness. A child should not be killed inside a mother's womb, for that who kills a child in a womb will call on the anger of God, the united Creator, upon himself. 32. Wives, love your husbands, for they are your protection and support, and of all your kin. Do not drink a lot of intoxicating drinks. No limit in drinking. For those who drinks a lot loses his or her human appearance. That passage will bother quite a few people, even in our own group. But why would it say we would lose our appearance? Well, think host possession, alcohol, meaning alcohol is the ghost spirit. And remember, alcohol and wine were introduced here by the aliens of darkness for the temptation into the world of Nav. Right, on we go to 73. There's 9 in total. And this Santi brings us life lessons. Observe, don't absorb, caring and sharing, plus need not greed. And all valuable lessons for us all to embrace. 33. Sage Savayata said to Peron, ever charming, what does your last commandment mean? Tell us. And Peron spoke to all gathered people, and he said, recall, people of the great race, the legend about the sons of Thor, which was saved in the sacred Vedas, given to you by my son Tar-Diadbog. And it's told about Santi's Dajbog, Vedas currently unreleased. 34. When Thor most wise became old, he called his sons Star, Wing and Odin, and told them this: my dear sons, 3 circles of life years have gone, old age and infirmity have filled my body. My powers are leaving me. I know that somewhere far in the south at the foot of the Himavat mountains stands Scuff of heavenly legs. Now, Star, Wing and Odin in the Scandinavian legends, it is told about 2 of Odin's brothers, but different sources give different names. The circle of life years, meaning 1 circle of life consists of 144 years, and so Thor was 432 years of age at this time, which is a 9 again. Himavat Mountains means the Himalayas. Now a Scuff, S-K-U-F, is a small Aryan settlement, as a rule without a temple, as opposed as a Skit being an Aryan settlement with a temple or sanctuary. The word skit became derogatory later on. Funny that, isn't it? 35. In that foothill Scuff, wise legs make a potion to all heavenly gods. a shining divine drink which grants many vital powers and eternal youth. And if human drinks potion of legs, he gains life powers again. Health returns into the body, and eternal youth shines in him. Now the potion was the drink of the gods, made of special ingredients. But this is the milk ocean potion many of the fake gods came here for, and they also fought over it, which is atypical for them. 36. Star said to his father Thor, I will fetch you the potion of gods. And Star went to the south to the Himavat mountains. And for a long time Thor waited for his oldest son. And so he sent his middle son to search for Star, saying to him, it looks like your older brother is in trouble. Go, Wing, and help your brother. And so Wing went to search for his brother Star. 37. Much water has flowed since that time in the sacred Iri. The small moon 9 times made its path around the earth, and the big moon 4 times. And Odin said to Thor most wise, Dear father, let me go to the Himavat mountains to search for my brothers, to search for the foothills scuff of the heavenly legs and divine potion. Now the small moon is fatter, that had an orbital period of 13 days, which means he was gone 288 days. And it was destroyed around 13,000 years ago due to unskilled usage of elemental forces of Midgard Earth. Now the big moon Messiat orbital period 29.5 days, which is curiously a period of 118 days, unless they were talking about the times of each brother leaving. Now in this shlok are described times when Midgard had 2 moons, the small one Fatta and the big one Messiat. And there are also parts in Santis which describe times when Midgard had 3 moons, and the 3rd moon was called Lelia. 38. Thor most wise blessed his dear son, and Odin set off to the south to the Himavat mountains, Himalayas, to search for his brothers and the scuff of heavenly legs. And as he arrived at the Himavat mountains, he saw the scuff of heavenly legs, and in the middle of the foothill scuff, Leg Silverhaired was making the shining potion in a golden pot for the light gods. 39. Odin spoke these words, Hello, Leg Mother, let there not be any black cloud above your scuff, and let all of your deeds be for the glory of the light gods. Answered to Odin, Leg Silverhaired said, Hello, fine young man, tell us what brought you here to our foothill scuff, to the Himavat mountains. 40. Anguish for my father, he said, brought me here. 3 circles of life years had already gone for him. Old age and infirmity have seized his body. Only your life-giving potion will oust old age, infirmity, and torment with suffering, and will sanctify father's body with God's power. 41. Odin spoke to the Leg Silverhaired. In the golden pot potion is being made. Take and taste the potion, but remember. The first cup grants power, gets rid of pain, fatigue, and infirmity. The second cup grants joy and eternal youth, and gets rid of oppressive old age. The third cup is superfluous for people. It turns human into an animal. And that is a lesson in need, not greed, something that has befallen too many now and into the past. 42. 2 fine young men had come before you, but didn't listen to my words and drank 3 cups each. And now they are like animals pasturing on meadow behind our foothill scuff. And she showed them to Odin, and he recognized his brothers. They were pasturing like cattle on a green meadow. It's that old non-listening problem again. And why do so many people ask for advice and when given it, do the exact opposite? What is the point of asking for advice if you're not going to take it? 43. And heart of Odin filled with great sorrow for his brothers, and he took the cup with potion and drank it all at once. Sorrow left, great powers filled his body, and appeared desire to drink another cup in order to get eternal youth like the light gods have. 44. He drank another cup, joy and eternal youth filled his body, and appeared great desire to drink the 3rd cup. But then Odin remembered the words of the silver-haired leg, and he didn't drink any more. But he filled his travelling jug with 2 cups of potion for his father. And what this reveals is the temptation will always be there. And it depends on your own willpower to avoid it. This is the seducement that the dark use we talk about. Observe, don't absorb it. 45. And made Odin hymn prayers for light gods and called them to help his brothers. The light gods came to the call of Odin and returned mind to his brothers Star and Wing, and blessed light gods their journey. The brothers returned to the father's house, and Odin gave the potion to his father. That sounds like a get out of jail free card to me, and that is not a good look in my opinion. Consequences of their own actions should have unfolded here for the remainder of that lifetime to enable them to gain wisdom, in my opinion. 46. Thor most wise drank the 1st cup. Illness and infirmity left his body, and great powers filled his mind and body. The 2nd cup, Thor most wise rejected to drink, but poured it out onto the roots of old dried trees, oak, birch and ash. And they acquired great powers, and their green leaves blossomed out on their tops. And that is the essence of caring and sharing. 47. Thor said to his sons these words: I have no need in eternal youth. I have lived a long life given to me by the Creator, Rama. Let these trees give a lot of powers to you, my dear sons, and to all descendants of your kins, in all times from circle to circle. Plant the seeds of these trees near mansions of your kins, and look after them like your children. Now, from circle to circle in ancient times, when people had a different calendar called a year circle, and calculation of that time was done not with centuries, 100 years, but with circles, 16 years, and circles of life, 144 years. That 144 has got nothing to do with the biblical book. That is another overlay. And this was due to the fact that hexadecimal numeration was used, but not decimal. 144 divided by 16 equals 9. 48. From that time, kings of the great race and descendants of the heavenly kin kept 3 trees of life and great power. In an hour of need and on holidays, they come to those trees which gave the power of life and receive a lot of powers, and glorify like gods and ancestors most wise for the good deeds and in the glory of all kings of the great race. Santi 4. In this section, it teaches us about truth, knowledge, wisdom, nature, and also serving a higher purpose. Life lessons of how to be and how not to be, service to others, not just the self. And this Santi should replace the Bible for all children. 49. De Arjen Roden. Kodarad questioned Peron. Now, a Roden was the chosen leader of several related kins, Rodan. Tell us, God ever charming, why many sages give vow of silence and tell that they are aspiring to the understanding of the Vedas. Is there any truth in a vow of silence? Does sage with silence come to speechless cognition of truth or not? Peron answered to Kodarad, there is no sense in vow of silence, because silence cannot cognize ancient Vedas with heart. And the ancient Vedas do not penetrate his heart. Ancient Vedas are only cognized by the living word. And where Veda's word is heard, their hearts begin to cognize its great essence. That is talk to the power of the spoken word, which can become plural with an S on the front and on the end. Ponder on that. 51. Many people think that those who know all the Vedas are sinless, even when committing evil. But neither hymns from the wisdom of cognition of worlds, nor aphorisms from the wisdom of world of radiances, nor spells from the wisdom of life will not save those who commit evil deeds, and everyone will be charged with his lawlessness. That is Rita law, everyone equal. Now the wisdom of cognition of worlds, wisdom of world of radiances, wisdom of life are the 3 collections of Santis that were given by the light gods. 52. Sacred hymns and songs will not save you from falsehood. Those who easily yield to deception, who stay in a world of charms and self-illusions. Like birds leave the nest when their wings grow, so sacred songs leave human when the time comes. The sacred songs are the music of the spheres that embraces love, the frequency, not the illusionary love for those that operate solely in fear. The absence of love perpetuates the fear programs. And love is something that is badly eschewed on this overly programmed materialistic world. Illusion, like the astral world, reigns. 53. The Vedas will not save those who do not fill their duty of life. They are indicated 2 ways: selfless devotion and bloodless sacrifices. And through them 2 traits, a knowledgeable person achieves purity, and with this purity he keeps off sin, self-illuminated with knowledge, of the Vedas. And this shlok means that apart from spiritual development, a human has to do his life duty. Life duty involves such things as extension of kin, creation for the good of kin, protection of kin, and many other things. 54. By knowing the ancient Vedas, a soul of a knowledgeable approaches the world of prav. But if he desires usual fruits of the world of yav, he takes with him everything he has done here, and in the world of nav, having enjoyed all fruits of his deeds. He bears responsibility for his every deed, and again follows the path predestined by the great Rama. Now the former is the path of the gods, the latter is like a recycle in essence, because you didn't develop enough to alter that loop. 55. By human children, selfless devotions are being performed in the world of Yav, and fruits of all deeds are eaten in the world of Nav. For sages and Kappan priests, who dedicate themselves to selfless devotions, whose great worlds are oriented. Sinless, selfless devotion is considered a renunciation of evil. Such self-sacrificial devotion can be successful and unsuccessful. But through devotion, experts of ancient Vedas have subsequently achieved immortality. Now, a Kappan priest is a priest of Kapish, and Kapish means sacred temple. 56. But there is also a sinful devotion, those of humans who are obsessed with anger, unrighteous, and the other 16 vices, plus those who violate the commandments of God and the ancestors, especially blood rules. And those who are inhabited by 13 meannesses, they are sinful. But those who have a clean soul and light spirit and live according to the covenants of their forefathers are sinless. 57. Unrighteous anger, lust, greed, delusion, carnality, cruelty, grumble, vainglory, despondency, attraction, envy, aversion, libertinism, desire for another's, oppression and malice. These are the vices of human children, and humans should avoid these 16. 58. Every one of them waylays humans, wishing to seize their natures like a hunter waylays prey. For boastful, lustful, arrogant, rancorous, unsteady, refusing of giving protection, are appropriate those sins committed by unlawful people despite their great danger. 59. Chase for delight, hostility, boasting of generosity, stinginess, oppression of other people, lie, weak will, glorification of feelings, hate towards wife. These are the 9 worst enemies of human. 60. Observance of commandments, laws of a united God, laws of your kin. Truthfulness, restraint, selfless devotion, self-denial, modesty, patience, firmness, absence of envy, bloodless sacrifices, continuation of kin, mercy, and attentiveness. And the study of the sacred Rama Inta and ancient Vedas, these are the 16 vows of ministers of faith. 61. That who will strengthen these 16 vows will distinguish himself on the whole earth. That who observes 3, 2, or just one of them is considered self-affirmed. Of renunciation of vices of world of Yav, but not in delusion, consists immortality. Wise ministers of faith call them the gates of truth. 62. In self-development there are 18 qualities. Restraint in action, inaction and purposefulness, eradication of injustice, blame, false pride, brutish desires, unrighteous anger, despondency, greed, envy, malevolence, irritation, anxiety, forgetfulness, verbosity and conceit. 63. This way, human who has perceived self-development becomes sensible and gets 8 qualities. Righteousness, ability to think over, ability of self-enrichment, ability to investige, dispassionateness, honesty, chastity and composure. Now, chastity in their term is engaging in immoral sexual acts. 64. Be truthful with your soul and spirit. Worlds are held by truth. Their gates are truth. For it is said that on truth rests immortality. Having turned away from sins, it is necessary to execute vows and commandments, and such conduct created by the united God through truth leads to immortality. Humans keep the sacred writings unchanged, Rama Inter and the ancient Vedas. 75. This section was warning of the future consequences of life here after they had departed. A warning about an alien predator coming and a penalty of mixing and not adhering to the great teachings. 65. Peron Thunderer was asked by Ogneslav, sage of the great temple of Yingliva of the Svyatoris kin. Tell us, Peron Father, what awaits in the future for the descendants of all kins of the great race and the heavenly kin. Now, the heavenly kin is those from the stars. The great race are the ones on the planet. What destiny awaits them after our departure for heavenly prav to our sacred wise ancestors? Answered to Ogneslav, God most wise said, listen to me, great keeper of primary fire, and you, ministers of gods of the sacred race and the heavenly kin. Like a celestial Iri, which divides half of Svarga, great changes will bring stream of time river in its flow. Time river. I suspect that is describing the flood, but it appears not, although it is interesting it was called the Time River. The celestial Iri is some part of the Milky Way galaxy, and half of Svarga is half of the visible firmament. 67. Sacred land of great race will change its face. Great fall of temperature, the Aryan wind, will bring to this land, and Marina, for a third of the year, will be covering it with her white cloak. There will be no food for humans and animals in this time. It will begin great migration of descendants of the heavenly kin to the Riparian Mountains, which protects western frontiers of the sacred Rus and URS. Now, the Arian is the north wind blowing from the side of the sacred THI-Show. Riparian Mountains is the Ural Mountains, Ur-Al Mountains, the Gods Mountains. Rus and URS, a land of the race, Russia, and this clearly describes an ice age. A third of the year is about the time of winter, and this is what we have now in general terms of the northern or southern climates. But that was a change from previous, which means it was more tropical back then. 68. And they will reach the great waters of the western ocean sea. The heavenly force will carry them to the land of the beardless humans with skin of flame of sacred fire colour. A great leader will build in that land the temple of Trident of God of Seas. And Ni, N-I-Y, God of the Seas, will be sending them his innumerable gifts and will be protecting them from evil elements. Now, the Western Ocean Sea is the Atlantic Ocean. The heavenly force is the Vitmanas and Vitmaras, and the land of the beardless humans are the land where Aryan kin of ants, not the insects, settled. Antland. And subsequently this land was named Antland, land of ants, which is the name of a particular kin of the Aryan race. And later on, ancient Greeks called it Atlantis. And Ni, god of seas and oceans, was the protector of the kin of ants. 69. But great prosperity will cloud minds of leaders and sages. Great laziness and desire for another's will seize their mind. Now, desire for another's is people's wealth and people's wives and people's husbands and all that stuff. They will start lying to gods and humans and will start living by their own laws, violating covenants of the wise progenitors and the laws of the united God Creator. They will use false elements of Midgard Earth for achievement of their goals and will enrage by their deeds Ni, the great god of seas. And Ni and elements will destroy that land, and it will hide in depths of the great waters, just like in ancient times in the depths of northern waters hid the sacred THI-Show. Gods of race will save righteous people, and the heavenly force will carry them east to land of humans with skin of colour of darkness. Beardless humans with skin of flame of sacred fire colour will be carried by heavenly force to boundless lands lying at the setting of the Urilla sun. Now, the land of humans with skin of colour of darkness is modern North Africa, where what they describe as the Negroid nations live. Now, lands at setting of the Urilla sun is the Americas. Urilla, the Aryan name of our sun. Urilla, I am, the first letter of the alphabet. Ra has a whole new meaning to it. It was not the name of a person, and long before the snakehead arrived here, but was considered to be the divine white light that creates all that exists. La, warmth, energy of kindness and love. And so in total we have I am light and warmth, which equals the sun. And so the red-skinned natives were moved from Atlantis to the Americas until they were almost wiped out by the Indians or Kalimar peoples. And having been to Utah again recently, I observed the populace there and thoughts flashed to, was I looking at the descendants of the Rus? And it has led me to believe that the Mormons are all Rus descendants, given the high white population there. The fact there is a temple there and his story is not too clear of how and when it was built, supposedly by less than 200 travellers from Missouri, Illinois, in under 20 years after their arrival, which makes no sense whatsoever. The logistics and craftsmanship and complete lack of manpower makes the Mormon temple story as likely as the Joseph Smith angel plates narrative. Complete fairy tales. I believe that temple was built by the Rus a long time in the past, and the followers of Mormonism are following the Egyptian Ra and his lizard brethren, and was a takeover from the Rus. And subsequently generations of Rus in Utah have been worshipping the very entities that brought about our demise. And as a possible supporting anecdote, there is several mentions of the word great, which is capitalized by the letter G. The great race, the great keeper, the great fire, the great temple. And remember, it is connected to the great god of the seas. But close to the great temple in Utah is the Great Salt Lake. A salty lake is an ocean, just like the great god of the seas. And there is a bay in the Salt Lake Basin called the Bear River Bay. The bear, of course, is linked to Ursa Major and also Ursa Minor. I bet that last piece rocked a few people in Utah. Just saying. It's what I do. We're halfway through, and so on we go. 71. Humans with skin of colour of darkness will be honouring descendants of the heavenly kin as gods, and will be studying under them many sciences. People from the great race will build new cities and temples, and will teach humans with skin of colour of darkness to grow cereals and vegetables. 4 kins of the great race in turns will be teaching new sages ancient wisdom and building trirand tombs in the form of tetrahedral artificial mountains. Pyramids. 72. While other kins of the great race will settle over the whole face of Midgard earth and will cross the Himavat mountains to teach humans with the skin of the colour of darkness the wisdom of the world of radiances, in order that they would stop their terrible bloody sacrifices to their goddess, the Black Mother, and snake dragons from the world of Nav, and so that they would acquire the new divine wisdom and faith. Now the Black Mother is the goddess Kali, the Kali Ma, the Black Mother, who is worshipped by the Negroid nations of Dravidia, now India. It's also known as the Black Madonna, and the snake dragons are the reptilian race known in India as Nagas. And so they went to teach and help and support. That's what 71 and 72, they were teaching them how to grow their own cereal and vegetables and to stop sacrificing their own people. Not like the part 2 where it says the Aryans were invaders. No. 73. Many kings of the great race will spread over all parts of Midgard earth, beyond the Riparian Mountains, Ural, and will set up new cities and temples. They will save faith of progenitors and secret Vedas, given by THI-Show and the other like gods. Many kings of the great race and the heavenly kin will shepherd countless flocks of animals, moving from land to land, will become related with other kins of the heavenly kin. 74. But will come from the world of darkness alien enemies, and will start saying to human children words flattering, covered with lie. They will start seducing the old and the young and taking human daughters to wives. They will interbreed amongst themselves, amongst humans and amongst animals. Hence the several references to bestiality in their Bible. They will start schooling it to all nations of Midgard earth, those who will refuse to listen to their words and follow vile deeds of aliens. They will commit to torments and sufferings. 75. Some of them are trying to enter Midgard earth even right now in order to do their dark deed, to seduce out of the way the light forces, sons and daughters of the great race. Their objective is to spoil souls of human children in order that they would never reach the light world of Prav and the heavenly Asgard. Also celestial earths and settlements where your light-wise ancestors are resting. 76. By their grey skin you will recognise alien enemies. Their eyes are of the colour of darkness, and they are androgynous, can either be male or female. When you ponder on the programme they've been running for the past 10-20 years of the transgender, now you know who started it. But every one of them can be either a father or a mother, and they paint their faces in order to resemble human children, and they never take off their clothes in order that their animal nudity would not be exposed. Oops. And this is the grey races, although some of them are reptilian in fact. Those known as the tall greys are actually reptilian. That's why it said their animal nudity. 77. With lie and unrighteous flattery they will conquer many lands of Midgard earth, like they had already done on other earths in many worlds in times of the last great Asa. But they will be defeated and sent to the land of the artificial mountains, where will live humans with skin of colour of darkness and descendants of the heavenly kin who came from the land of the god Ni. Human children would start teaching them how to work in order that they would be able to grow cereals and vegetables for their children themselves. Now the great Asa means a space war between the light gods and the dark forces. The land of the artificial mountains is ancient Egypt, land of the pyramids. Which is interesting on another level, because it was understood that the sub-grey race known today as the Jews were the ones who were sent to Egypt. And what this is suggesting is the grey aliens were part of it as well. And it begs the question of, were the sub-grey mixed used not just between the white and black races, but between the white and alien grey race, and also the black and the alien grey race as well. 78. But the absence of wishing to work will unite aliens. They will leave the land of the artificial mountains and will settle all over Midgard Earth, out of Egypt, not Africa. They will create their own religion and will proclaim themselves sons of united God. They will start sacrificing blood of their own and of their children to their God, in order that blood union between them and their God would exist. Will create their own religion, they said 40,000 years ago. That is Christianity. Period. And that is why I've long held the belief, long before I became a radio show host, the Bible is their story, not ours. But it's interesting it mentions the sub-grey are not willing to work. And yet how many of the Jewish do you see in poorer paid jobs? The construction industry, general shops. Is that generational teaching of how they shouldn't work in anything but finance, governance and legalese professions, as Finkelstein stated. 79. The light gods will start sending them to wanderers most wise, for they do not have neither spirit or conscience. Aliens will be listening to their wise words, and having heard them out, will sacrifice lives of wanderers to their God. They will create golden Taurus as a symbol of their power and will worship it the same way as their God. Now Taurus is the bull, as in papal bull, which means father bull. Taurus is the home of the Aldebaran race that worked with the SS. Not the Aryan SS, I might add. And it said they have no spirit, which means they are soulless creatures. In other words, lab-created entities. And that is what we've been dealing with. 80. The light gods will send them to the great wanderer carrying love. But priests of the golden Taurus will martyrize him upon his death and will declare him God. They will create a new religion built on lie, blood and oppression, and will announce that all nations are inferior and sinful. They will call them to repent before the face of God they will have created, to ask forgiveness for deeds done and undone. The great wanderer, Jesus Christ, but not the Jesus or the Christ of the Bible. And they say this particular story is actually a lot more complicated and would take a whole book to explain the great wanderer. But all nations are inferior and sinful. Well, nations means races of people. 6. Santi 6. This next passage speaks of even graver times for the Aryans, a great war, poisoned water and food, and a disconnect from the teachings and the ancient ways. The great fall began, and we have yet to fully recover. 81. Suvyatazar of glorious Suvyatatorus kin said to Peron ever charming, "Tell us, Peron father, what is going to be with the sacred land of the great race and faith of our ancestors. Tell us, like God, if grave times will come for the sons of the great race. Then who will be able to save the sacred land of the great race and the descendants of the heavenly kin?" 82. Spoke God most wise these words, "Be aware that grave times will be brought by the stream of the Time River to the sacred land of the great race. And on this land will be left only sages, keepers of ancient knowledge and secret wisdom. Because humans will use force of elements of Midgard earth and will destroy the small moon Fata and their beautiful world. And then the Svarog circle will turn and human souls will be horrified." Now the Svarog circle will turn in this sentence. Svarog circle means firmament. And this prophecy tells about events which happened nearly 13,000 years ago, when unskillful usage of Midgard's elemental forces caused the destruction of the small moon Fata, and giant pieces of which fell to the earth. And as a result, Earth inclined its axis, thus changing the view of the firmament. And also movement of the tectonic plates occurred, which caused powerful earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, huge tsunamis, the destruction of Atlantis and many other islands, and the process of orogenesis, meaning the formation of mountains, and the changing of climate. 83. A great night will wrap around Midgard Earth, and a celestial fire will destroy many lands of Earth. Where beautiful flowers once bloomed will stretch great deserts. Instead of birth-giving land will be noisy seas, and with the splashed waves of seas will emerge high mountains covered with everlasting snows. 84. Humans will be hiding in caves from poisonous rains bringing death, and will start eating animal flesh. Because arboreal fruits will be filled with poison, and many humans will die after eating them. Arboreal means fruit of the tree. Poisoned water streams will bring many deaths to the children of the great race and descendants of the heavenly kin, and also thirst will bring sufferings to humans. 85. And by the advice of aliens who secretly arrived to Midgard Earth, people will be killing each other for a swallow of fresh water, for a piece of clean food. They will start forgetting ancient wisdom and the laws of the united God Creator. The great disconnection will come to the world of Midgard. Only sages, keepers of sacred land of the great race, will be keeping purity of ancient knowledge despite hardships and death. 86. But the river of time will once again bring changes in its flow, and unifications of kins of great race will begin again. Ancient knowledge will unite them, saved in songs and folk legends, and passed on by the word of mouth. Written on stones in temples and sanctuaries, and inscribed in great santis. Much wise knowledge will become lost for many kins, but they will remember that they are descendants of the heavenly kin. Nobody will be able to defeat them and take their freedom. 87. Many circles of life will pass Midgard Earth on Svarog's way. Human children will build cities and temples anew for those gods whom they remember. Live righteous and happy will return to the lands of the great Rus and URS. But alien priests from the temples of the golden Taurus and priests of the murdered wanderer will want to destroy their world and peace, for these priests live by fruits of others' work. So who are they describing? What they are describing are the Kohens and Khans we have covered in previous shows. Khan is the Asian word for Kohen, and Kohen means priest. All perpetuated by the Koshis that became kosher and the Hebrew Anunnaki. 88. And alien priests will come to the lands of the great race under the guise of traders and narrators, and will bring deceitful legends. They will start teaching unrighteous life to people of the great race who won't know evil and deceit, and many people will become seduced after getting caught into nets of flattery and deceit. They will exchange world of prav for 9 vices: libertinism, lie, false pride, spiritlessness, non-fulfillment of duty, ignorance, indecision, laziness and gluttony. Under the guise of traders, once again revealing that was part of the Jewish race. Alien priests will come to the land of the great race. This prophecy tells about the Christianization of European and Russian lands, which tells you those in the Vatican are not us. They are aliens, and Christianity is their religion. 89. Many people will renounce sacred faith of their ancestors and will start listening to words of the alien priests, which are lies unrighteous, leading human children astray from the way of light forces. Times of blood and fratricide. Alien priests will bring to the scopes of lands of the kings of the great race and will start converting people to their faith. Many people will renounce sacred faith of the ancestors. Christian missionary preachers call nations of great race not to come from unbelief to faith, but to renounce native light gods and ancestors and to accept the alien god. Such renunciation is called betrayal, and betrayal is the worst sin. Now, the author said this as an added piece. Moreover, Jesus himself said these words, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. House of, not country of. And times of blood and fratricide. This prophecy tells about an ancient war strategy, divide and rule. In modern day terms, divide and conquer. 90. People of race will be asking for help from alien priests, worshipping alien gods and the god of the world of darkness. And priests of killed wanderer with false zeal will start comforting them. They will capture their souls and riches of human children. They will declare people of the great race slaves of God, which they had killed themselves. They will be telling them that suffering is good, for those who suffer will behold God. Alien gods are the Koshis. 91. For 7 life circles, darkness will wrap lands of the kins of the great race. Many people will die from metal and fire. Grave times will come for nations of Midgard-earth. Brother will rise against brother, son against father. Blood will be pouring like rivers. Mothers will be killing their unborn children. Hunger and spiritual void will cloud minds of many people of the great race, and they will lose faith in justice. Cohen, once the priest, Cohen's now the lawyers, using the reptilian language of Latin. 7 circles of life is 144 times 7, which equals a familiar number, 1008. The Svarog cycle is 1008 years also. 92. The United Creator God and Heavenly Kin will not allow death of the great race. Revival of the great race and awakening of protection spirit of sons of the Heavenly Kin will be brought by white dog, sent by gods to the sacred land of the great race. Sacred land will be purified from 1,000-year slave yoke of alien enemies, who sacrifice blood and flesh of their children, and with lie and unrighteous flattery poison the souls of the children of the Heavenly Kin. Now, white dog is the name of a year from the Aryan calendar. Be interesting to find out which year that coincides with. Maybe it's close. 93. The celestial phoenix will point the supreme sage of primary fire to a son of sage of forest of tri-moon kin, and supreme sage will train him to be a great wise sage, which will be assisted by light gods. The great sage will revive the ancient faith of the progenitors on the sacred land of the great race. They will build temples and sanctuaries in order that all kins of the great race and descendants of the Heavenly Kin would cognize ancient wisdom and righteous life. Celestial Phoenix is the name of a year from the Aryan calendar also. 94. The minions of darkness will find out that their death has come, and they will be lying about the great sage. They will be seducing his apprentices and neighbours with a glut of wealth and vicious bliss, in order that they would not reach the spiritual heights of the world of Prav and would be eternal slaves of the dark world. They will do everything to destroy the great sage, in order that ancient wisdom and faith of progenitors would not be revived on the sacred land of race. 95. Forces of darkness will make all efforts in order that the sacred fire would never light up in front of images and idols of gods and your sacred wise ancestors. Aliens will start stirring up one nation against another, calling them to wars in order that they would kill each other for possession of Earth's properties. 96. Millions of lives will be taken by senseless wars for the sake of alien desires. For the more there are wars and deaths of human children, the more wealth could acquire envoys of the world of darkness. Then they would have more influence over minds of many people of the great race. Dark forces for achievement of their goals will even use the Fash Destroyer, and fire mushrooms bringing death will rise above Midgard-earth. Fire mushrooms are nuclear weapons. The Fush or Fash Destroyer was even more high-tech than nuclear weapons. it brought total destruction to whole swathes of regions. And I suspect that weapon, or the rolling cloud weapon, is what created the deserts upon this planet. And these can all be seen as prophecies per se, but this is what they have done to many other worlds. A long-term loop-based plan of harvesting and death. And remember, most wars are started by bankers. They fund both sides and then collect the shekels. The actual war itself is actually a form of entertainment to them. Yes, you heard that correctly. And many may find that last quote unbelievable, but the problem is your thinking levels on evil are just way too low. And that is how they prevail. Right, Santi 7. This next Santi is all about the reteaching of the ancient ways, codes, morals and wisdom. 97. Peron spoke to Vedamir, warrior of the THI-Show kin, these words. Tell us, our light leader, will the great sage save sacred faith of our progenitors from alien enemies? I ask this because we are relatives with tri-moon kin. 98. Answered like God to the warrior, listen to me, hard fate is predestined for the great sage. Incomprehension of people will surround him, because ancient wisdom will become unintelligible for many kins of the great race and the heavenly kin. His task will be to explain to people the fundamentals of ancient knowledge and the meaning of rune images saved in the laws of the united God Creator. Ancient wisdom will be unintelligible. Incomprehension of ancient wisdom by people is mainly connected with the changing of languages and also the distortion of ancient truth. Remember the biblical passage, the Lord came down and changed all the languages and scattered the people to the four corners of the earth, from Genesis. 6. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they all have one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. 7. Go to, let us go down, and therefore confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. 8. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. 9. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. Biblical scholars, who are the minions of this cult, spend an inordinate amount of time trying to cover this up, making bizarre conspiracy claims to try and give a spin on that narrative. But it is what it is. The Lord was not our friend or important as a deity either. He was an off-world flesh and blood usurper with a huge anger management problem, not to mention his ego issues. The Lord of the Bible was Anu, the royal Draco king from Alpha Draconis, who along with his family did much damage here. His family was Inanna, Enki, Endel, Marduk, Echidnu, and many others of that ilk. Not one of them was for our benefit. The Rothschilds clan is their modern-day versions. They have the most reptilian DNA of any family or bloodline on this planet, hence why they have controlled us since the 1800s. Now, the Draco stepped back in the 1800s and allowed humans to take control, all whilst installing their own humans into the prominent positions. That is why I kept telling you, have you defined what is human? Because clearly we haven't. Even the trustee, when we were doing the peace treaty, we haven't defined what is human. What is human as in serpent man. 99. A great priestess will bring new life to scopes of sacred land of race. All kins of the great race and descendants of the heavenly kin will cognize life-bringing light of ancient wisdom, which is kept by sages of the great temple of Yingliva. Happiness and righteous life she will consolidate on the whole land of race, in order that the world of light soul of Djiva, DJIVA, would find shelter for itself in the heart of every human of the heavenly kin and the great race, starting from the resurrected Aryan Asgard. Now, Djiva is some kind of divine essence. Are they describing an attempt to bring back the divine feminine? 100. Vedamir warrior of Aryan kin as Peron. Tell us, light leader, how will the great priestess be born, of which kins will be her parents? And how will light of ancient wisdom illuminate the whole world of Midgard earth? Peron answered to the warrior of the Hegerian kin, listen, warrior, to my words. As soon as the supreme sage of primary fire will finish 14-year training of son of sage of forest of the tri-moon kin, he will declare him his successor and lead through 3 initiations. 14 years of training, and yet modern shamans barely have a year. See the difference? 101. On the day of a great holiday, light gods and most wise ancestors will summon the supreme sage of the primary fire, for he will have completed his mission on Midgard earth. The new supreme sage of tri-moon kin will begin his deeds, travelling from city to city, propagating ancient wisdom of faith of the progenitors and healing the sick with soul and body. 102. By return to the Aryan Asgard, he will summon his apprentices and will start teaching them the fundamentals of ancient wisdom. They will start building temples of ancient faith of progenitors of the great race and the heavenly kin. And when the time will come, the daughter of the great witch of kin of newly arrived will be brought to the great sage in order that she would study hidden ancient wisdom. The great sage will start teaching daughter of the great witch secret knowledge and will be training her to be the priestess of the White Temple. The word witch in more modern times brings darker or more malevolent thoughts. I would more describe them as adepts. 103. Her mother, the Great Witch, will begin healing souls and bringing up children of kins of the great race and the heavenly kin. The Supreme Sage will surround daughter of the Great Witch with care and love and will be guarding her from minions of the world of darkness, in order that they would not possess her soul and would not turn the daughter of the Great Witch to dark, spiritless ways, leading souls of people to hell, lying in the dark depths of the world of Nav. Now, soul possession is high on the agenda in their dark ways. Turning to dark, spiritless ways is a big descent into their world. Now, one potential in the modern day fell to those very traits via soul possession and dark spirit ways. The trustee. Other potentials will follow that same path unless they take control of themselves and open their hearts. The feminine aspect appears to me to have a more particular weakness to this type of subversion. Ego plays a huge role into it. The words of them change from us. We and our to me and my, and so it becomes all about the self and not the collective. The higher the role, the more the responsibility and the more you become service to others. Not exhibiting those true traits leads to the fall, and it happens far quicker than the rise in status. 104. Because minions of the world of darkness know that the daughter of the Great Witch, surrounded by care and love of the Great Sage, will give birth to a beautiful child which will become the new Great Priestess, a saviour of sacred land and all kins of the great race and descendants of the heavenly kin. In a sacred year should this child be born, for since that time the future great priestess will be helped and served by all gods of the heavenly kin. Now the sacred year, according to the year circle of Chislabog, is every 16th year is considered to be sacred. And Chislabog is a figure from modern Slavic paganism, they say, especially in the English tradition, except paganism is an overlay. He rather than a she, it is said, is typically associated with time and or numbers, and his name comes from the Slavic words for number, chislo, and god, meaning bog. And Chislabog's origins are uncertain, but he appears in the book of Vedas, a book which they believe to be a forgery rather than a genuine ancient Slavic text. But it is said, despite this, he is an important figure in Yinglism and is worshipped by followers of the tradition. But according to Yinglish belief, Chislabog controls the flow of time, sometimes symbolised as a river. He is also considered the protector of various Slavic Aryan calendars, including the THI calendar, DAA''RI. And Yinglish believe that the THI calendar was used in Europe prior to the adoption of the Christian calendar. And Chislabog is often depicted holding a sword in his left hand, symbolising protection and preservation, and a shield with the THI calendar inscribed on it in his right hand. Now the hymn of Chislabog praises him as the protector of life and the giver of understanding to humans, and asks for blessings for Yinglish families and long life. While some people have suggested that Chislabog may be female, that is not a widely held belief among Yinglists. 105. Mother Earth itself will be giving food to her, and the celestial cow Zimun will be giving milk to her. Gamma-Un, the prophetic bird, will sing to the great priestess about saved ancient great wisdom. God Vision himself will be protecting her dreams, and Larder Mother will be guarding her from evil in her daytime. Makosh Mother will be nursing her, and the god Krishan will play pipe for her. Now Zimun is an Aryan constellation that almost corresponds with Ursa Minor. Larder Mother is probably a personification of some universal forces. Makosh Mother is the same as the Larder Mother. The god Vision is probably a figurative god also, but he's also the local god. But I think Larder is actually Radha, which is Orion, and Makosh is Ursa Major. Radha, Makosh, Svarti, Arcturus, and Race Leo were the four constellations fighting the dark forces, the Koshis. And Gamayun is a prophetic bird of Russian folklore. It is a symbol of wisdom and knowledge, and lives on an island in the mythical east, close to paradise. She is said to spread divine messages and prophecies, as she knows everything of all creation, gods, heroes, and man. The Gamayun is normally depicted as a large bird with a woman's head, and in the books of the 17th to 19th century, the Gamayun was described as a legless and wingless bird. 106. But the forces of darkness will gather together and want to destroy this child, in order that ancient knowledge, runes, and secret wisdom concealed in grave times would vanish. For their great objective is to not allow the birth of the great priestess, and they will make all their efforts in order that this child would never be born. The minions of the world of darkness will be surrounding the mother of the future great priestess with lie and great flattery. 107. They will invite mother of the future great priestess to great festivals, where lie and spiritual impoverishment are in high esteem, where idleness and self-admiration are standard, where meanness and depravity are deified. Dark forces will be sending to the daughter of the great witch to seduce us and tempt us, in order that they would slander the great sage and ancient faith of progenitors. 108. All dark forces will be directed to separate the great sage from the daughter of the great witch. For dark forces know that if they will be separated, great loss and the unborn great priestess will lead to death of the supreme sage, as his mission is to train a great priestess. But he will revive again after one circle of life, and it will be the last time of the dark forces' rulership in all lands of Midgard Earth. One wonders if this great priestess was in fact Kim Go-Guen, and yet she fell for the seducement of money and power, plus ego, every time. If it was, she will not get another opportunity to hamper the progress of humanity. 109. The all-destructive fire of retribution of forces of light will burn minions of the world of darkness and all descendants of alien enemies, which were filling the whole human world with spiritual emptiness, carrying on their banners lie and vices, laziness, cruelty, desire for another's, lust, fear, and a lack of confidence. It will be a great end of the world for alien enemies who came from the dark world. And it will become the end of time of darkness for all kins of the great race and the descendants of the heavenly kin. 110 glorious sages of gods of the great race and the heavenly kin. You witches, silver-haired, you sages most wise, remember my words. Inscribe their runes on santies and on stones in your temples and sanctuaries, in order that your descendants would remember about grave times, which will be brought by Time River on its transient waves and would be ready for grave tests. 111. If descendants of your kins will save in memory these words and will unite many forces for defence of faith of the wise progenitors, nothing will save enemies of the great race and the heavenly kin from destructive fire of retribution of the light forces. From destructive fire of retribution of the light forces. From destructive fire of retribution of the light forces. For those of human children who will go on the way of forces of light will be saved, but those who will go on the way of the forces of darkness will find death. 112. By the will of the god Svarog, my father, I have announced you about eternal laws of the universe and about great tests over the Svarog circle, and the 99 circles of life which will occur in the future on Midgard Earth. This great predestination must be fulfilled by you and your descendants in order that everything is predestined by great Ra-Maha. On service of shining waves of the Time River would come true, an execution of which is supervised by Chislabog, who is the god of numbers. The Svarog Circle and 99 circles of life. The Svarog Circle is an enormous period of time equal to 25,920 years, which is 180 circles of life. 144 by 180 is 25,920. 99 circles of life equals 14,256. The total sum, 25,920 plus 14,256 equals 40,176 years. Have you worked it out yet? One ponders whether the 40,000 years is up around this time. If it is based on the time period just before the bringing in of the other coloured races, which was around 40,000 years ago, and when this was written, then we were at the end of that cycle now, or just beginning a new cycle. 8. In this Santi they gave further warning and also the hope it and they will return to change the dark forces' ways. 113. Peron most wise spoke to Skifadi, the sage of Temple of Flower of Fern of Rusin kin. Tell us, wise teacher, what forces attracts aliens to leave their homes in the world of darkness and bring them to us on Midgard Earth? Answer to sage God most wise, aliens covet everything they do not possess. All their thoughts are only about power above all worlds, about capturing property and the creation of light worlds. 114. The objective of aliens is to disturb harmony reigning in the world of light, to destroy the descendants of the heavenly kin and the great race, for only they can give adequate repulse to the forces of darkness. Minions of the world of darkness think that only they should possess all worlds, which were created by the great Rama. Upon arriving on blooming earths, they seek to school human children to greed, for greed kills cognition, and when cognition is killed, shame dies. 115. And when shame is killed, truth is oppressed, and with the death of truth dies happiness too. When happiness is dead, human dies. If human dies, then any of his riches are taken in possession of by aliens. They consider wealth to be their rightest support, and they build their world on wealth. In the world of darkness, life is only available to those who have riches. A poor human there is like a dead in the wilderness. Is there any doubt at this point? This is not unfolded here. 116. They take away income from people, taxes, relying on the power of their deception, knowing that if they take away from people's support and faith, the purpose of life and freedom of spirit, they will destroy them. And human children in such situations in the world of Yav choose the path of death freely and direct their weapons against alien villains. For it is better to accept glorious death in battle righteous against alien enemies rather than to submit to their enemies. 117. People with weak spirit will lose their minds or fall under the authority of alien enemies, whilst others in thirst for hoarding go to serve the aliens. Misfortunes of such lost people are worse than death, as death, according to law, is the eternal way of the world, and there has been nobody living on the world of Yav who has exceeded death. And that passage is describing need not greed. 118. Alien enemies drive human children into madness, and people losing more and more mind accomplish cruel deeds. They end up violating blood rules in their evil deeds, and for those who are guilty in blood mixing, hell opens its wide doors. If the human will not reject all of these, if he will not wake up, he will go directly to hell, and the gods will not help him, for he himself chooses his path. For those who are guilty in blood mixing, hell opens its wide doors. Punishment for blood mixing is degradation, degeneration, and extinction of the whole branch of a kin. After death, a guilty soul goes to hell. Gods will not help him, for he himself chooses his path. Human is given a freedom of choice, and God helps him only when he goes on the way of the spiritual development. But if he chooses to go on a spiritless way of material pleasures, he thus rejects the help of the light gods. A somewhat harsh warning, and I have to say in many ways not much different on the front from the church. But in a different context of the white race numbers dwindling, then perhaps it's better understood. And again, it's all about personal choices and responsibilities. 119. Awakening of human occurs only in cognition, and the eye of cognition saves him. Having achieved cognition, the human child looks at the Vedas again. Then aspiration for spiritual life becomes duty, and head of all deeds becomes conscience. Listening to conscience, he hates everything evil. This makes conscience strong, and human creates his happiness. In happiness, human himself is created. Head of all deeds becomes conscience, because when conscience becomes head of all, the deeds of a human begins his spiritual development. Living by conscience, human is capable of fulfilling all the commandments of the gods and ancestors, no matter how many there are, for conscience is above all. And as the human child looks to the Vedas, perhaps this song is more fitting now than before. Now do you understand why that song was played quite a bit over the past 18 months? 120. This is still Santi 8. Tranquil people are always skillful in their deeds and invariable in duty before kin. They don't imagine anything unlawful, and they don't act sinfully. Dishonourable or unreasonable people, be it men or women, do not succeed in fulfilment of their duty before gods and kin and become like aliens. Those who have conscience honour gods and ancestors and head for immortality, but not the hellish world. That's talking about keeping calm, not in chaos. 121. Those of human children who, having come from madness to rage, will be threatening, who will come to hate good, will be called by people grey like alien and despicable, who by instigation of aliens, in delusion and greed, seeks to take away from good people their happiness. Those not controlling themselves will not cope with anger, and himself will not retain happiness for a long time. For all the riches of those who have gone astray from the way of light will go to aliens. Grey like alien. And even though their skin is indeed grey, in the original version of this particular shlock, another word was used, a Karen, Karaen, which means the one without light in his or her soul. And during the translation from runic language to Russian word, grey had to be used, because there is no equivalent in Russian for the word Karen. And I wonder if that is the origin of the modern slang name of a Karen. And this passage explains in overview of the word in their Bible saying, "We will make man in our image." That was not a creation message, but a plan to subvert all men and make us act like them. And by men, I mean both genders. 122. And hearts of all dark forces are filling with joy when human children are listening to deceitful speeches of aliens and go astray from the way of light. And go by mean way, accumulating material welfare but not spiritual, by the will of the alien enemies, this way leading to their kins to destruction. Alien enemies know that all unrighteous welfare and riches taken away from good people will cloud human mind, and souls of humans will become callous. 123. Children of human kins, do not listen to words of aliens, for they are deceitful and want to destroy your souls, in order that they would not reach the celestial Asgard, and they would be eternal wanderers in pitch darkness. Do not allow aliens to your daughters, for they will seduce your daughters and deprave their pure souls. Spoil the blood of the great race, for the first man of a woman leaves images of spirit and blood. 124. Alien images of blood oust the light spirit from human children, and blood mixing leads to destruction. This kin dies degenerating without having healthy posterity, for there will not be that internal force which kills all illnesses and diseases, which will be brought to Midgard Earth by alien enemies coming from the dark world. Interesting, they mention an internal force that eliminates illnesses and disease within us, including the white race. And interesting also to note them stating alien forces brought the disease with them. Yet which race of people appear to have immunity from such plagues and diseases? The Hebrew Anunnaki amongst us and their descendants. 125. Do not listen to the exhortations of alien seducers, and don't become attracted by their deceitful promises. Alien enemies have no compassion, neither to human children of the heavenly kin, nor to creatures similar to them. For each who came from the dark world, or is offspring born on Midgard or other earth, thinks only about idle life, exploiting others' work, and trustfulness of human children. 126. By deceit, ruse, and righteous lie, aliens obtain trust of the people. Boasting about their friendship with elders of kin, they enmesh with lie the human children. Pervert their pure souls and school them to mean deeds. Alien enemies call their lust, pleasure, and birth of children vicious madness. They call human children to non-observance of paternal traditions. 127. Human children of kins of the great race and new descendants of the heavenly kin, be pure with your soul and spirit, and let pure conscience be the measure of your deeds. Banish from all your lands alien enemies and all their offspring, or else they will destroy your light souls with their spiritlessness. By their vicious deeds they will ruin your bodies and will use you and your descendants in their dark deeds. With your sons and daughters they will comfort their flesh. 128. Those of you and your descendants who will remember all this will banish alien enemies and their offspring from the sacred land of the great race, are the true saviours and defenders of their kin and of all kins of the great race and the heavenly kin. Those who will listen to the deceitful words of aliens and will give to them their women, or will take alien women to his son, are apostates of human kin, and they will never be forgiven by light gods and the heavenly kin. Some very severe warnings of mating with them, even engaging them, makes one ponder on my own thoughts of ever merging with them in any sort of peace pact. Exploiting others' work is all they have ever done, in terms of science, technology, finance, business, and many other exploits. But the greatest is exploiting our ingenuity, our compassion, our intelligence, and above all, our life force energy, of which we criminally misunderstand, as well as our own power, and we will need a major learning curve of knowledge to get it all back. And one ponders now of ET disclosure taking a whole new course, because the trust with those beings who harmed us is and should be at an all-time low. From the patronising space brothers and sisters spiel by the Pleiadians, the Greys and Reps of Orion, the Draco of Alpha Draconis, and the Hydra Dragon group from Hydra Draconis, plus the Hyksos and the Abraxans, all played a role in the great deception of this race. There will be a short break before the final Santi. It had to be a 9, didn't it? That was the theme from the 100 series that tells much of our story and our fall. And most people, or some people, said I can't watch that, it's too violent. But you have to understand that is what took place. You cannot deny the truth. And how we fell into a cycle of violence also. Santi 9, this section explains the fall of that time period, a warning from the past to the future and housed here in the now. And this may well cause triggers within you. Find time beyond this show to work through them. 129. And asked Peron Thunderer, sages keepers of tracks, which leads through stargates, tell us, our wise teacher, what is happening in Great Svarga, and why have many gates to Makosh, Ursa Major, and rather Orion closed? The crystals of movement are not beaming anymore, and the Zarbine circle has faded in half a quarter. The celestial needles lost colour. At present, from many Amaras, we don't get a response to our long call. Now, half a quarter measure corresponds to 1/8 of a circle, or 45 degrees. And the celestial needles are systems of space communication and also navigation. 130. Peron most wise answered to them, be advised, keepers of the star gates, a great Asa, which is battle, is happening in Svarga, Makosh, Radha, Savat, and in Rasa. A great battle is occurring. In it, the light gods from Prav entered brutal battle with the alien warriors of hell. They are defending Great Svarga and cleaning the world, system by system, from warriors of darkness, from the dark world. 131. From those spiteful enemies who turned blooming earths into dust, who spilled blood of innocent creatures, nowhere spared neither the young nor the old. And that's why many gates have closed, in order that alien enemies would not get to light lands of Great Svarga, and that fate of Torora would not befall them. Now, Torora, which as what was once in Radha Orion, most bright illuminated worlds with wise love. 132. Now Torora is deserted without life. Many gate circle is torn apart, on many needles collapsed mountains, and ashes of fire lies in 7 Sazans. Same image, sad and cheerless, I saw on Arkholm, on Rutter Earth, which shined before in the bright Makosh. The stargates turned to fritted stone, celestial needles, roadside ash. Now 7 Sazans. A Sazan is an ancient Aryan measure, equals 213.36 centimetres, and 7 Sazans make around 15 metres or 50 feet. 133. Everywhere are ruins of great sanctuaries, and cities are destroyed by heavy fire, which was rising up from Rutter up to the sky. There is no more life on that earth or in it without sun. No plants, nor birds, nor animals. Just wind carrying dust over valleys, filling ravines of intermontane. Despondently and quietly in that world of ruins where once dwelt life far and wide. Now, intermontane means on, around, or within the mountains. Why always mountains? Because many of them are the station or portals from which to travel to and from worlds. Why do you think the evil aliens amongst us are planning to block out our own sun now? Because everything else failed. The black sun and the void with no life is their agenda that we revealed in From His Story to Our Story 8b. But be assured they will not block out this sun. 134. The fast destroyer evaporated rivers, seas, and the sky got filled with black clouds. Beams of light do not get through pitch dark fog, and life will never return to that world. And this happened to many earths where had been enemies from the dark world. They were attracted by riches and minerals which those beautiful earths had. Having earned trust of people by flattery, they stirred up people against each other. This way were born wars in those worlds. Where there is mining, you will find them, and desertification. 135. After the end of wars, those who remained alive were irradiated with Ziran. The people lost their consciousness and will by command of alien enemies. They were extracting riches and minerals. When those earths went out of riches and all minerals were exhausted down to the limit, all people were destroyed by enemies. They exported everything they obtained on those earths, but those earths where aliens were ousted, there they sent their fast destroyer. A message to the elitist or elitist clowns is in this passage. They who are the minions of these evil overlords. Because the recent version of this was actually this century. Marduk pulled the plug on you all. He had all the riches, most of which you gave to him in return for personal gain via fake pieces of paper. He told you all you had the golden tickets. He lied. He told you all you were the special or chosen ones. He lied. He told you all you were part of the plan. He lied. And after pulling the plug in 2007 from the trust, it was set up here for another Fash destroyer type weapon and destroy this whole planet and all the beings on it and in it, including you jackasses. You all thought he was playing a game with you and he would return to save you. He didn't. Outside of a controlled chip, and he won't. You all sat there waiting for your saviour to save you like little children. Well, guess what? That is not happening. Just like the 2012 Destroy Earth event never happened, just like the Create a Black Hole to Portal Out event with CERN never happened. You are trapped under quarantine and there is no way out or in this time. The next phase of this is how to repair all of the damage caused and restore things to the way they were before the catastrophic events. Except I disagree that it was better before. In general, it wasn't. It's all about perspective, is it not? Endless wars, death and suffering is no different to now, and we need to teach all species a better and fairer way. 136. To restore Zarbine's circle to make the Stargate spiral beam again. Extract movement crystals in part, which fades in half a quarter. In place of the movement crystals of Svarga, which are on borders of Svar-Ozic system, install Yinglever crystals. Outworld light manifested in Nav will glow in Yinglever crystals, and shedding powerful stream, it will restore the Zarbine glow. 137. As spiral with straight radiance manifests on Zarbine's circle in front of you, once again change the crystals to previous state, for Outworld will be opened to you. Be advised, Outworld light is harmful. It absorbs soul's radiations and mind fades in it. Unable to understand what happens with soul. That is the false light. The life of unreasonable, soulless creatures does not go to Svarga, but goes to hell, where they pine in pitch darkness without knowing themselves nor what happened. Is the outworld light the false illumination the illuminated ones fell for? Oops. 138. So be attentive in your deeds and don't tempt fate in vain. Many people got destroyed by curiosity, except cats, it seems. And those who tried to cognize the outworld. Outworld rays are harmful to health and humans are unable to comprehend its nature. Life there flows by other laws, a bloody dawn arises above Earth's. Strange essences like polkans try to destroy Vitmaras for ages. And Polkan or Palkan is a half-human, half-horse. In some variants, half-dog creature from Russian folk tales, which possesses enormous power and speed. Now the half-human, half-horse were the chimeras in Boading Shan, China, that were killing and grinding up humans there, that we covered in an earlier show. 139. You've been living on Midgard calmly since old times, when world got established. Remembering from Vedas about the deeds of Tazadzbog, how he destroyed the strongholds of the Koshis, which were located on the nearest moon, Lelia. Tyr didn't allow insidious Koshis to destroy Midgard like they had destroyed Dea, D-E-A. Dea is a destroyed planet of our solar system. At present, the remains of Dea makes up the asteroid belt between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. And these Koshis, rulers of Greys, vanished with the moon in half a chast. But Midgard paid for freedom with the Arya hid by the Great Flood. Now half a chast is an Aryan measure. One chast equals 648 parts or 18.75 seconds. 140. The waters of the moon caused that flood. To earth from the skies they fell in rainbow colours. For the moon split, and in a Swarovskic array they descended to Midgard. Ancient strings were destroyed which stretched to distant systems. In between world, some connections were interrupted and the long call could not be heard. Many Vitmaras got lost in Svarga until new strings were born and their call was heard from the systems. 141. A lot of people died in that time. Those who wasn't able to lift on Vitmanas or pass through stargates and save themselves in the system of the Bear, which is Ursa Major and Minor. Strings of systems are deranged again, therefore the celestial needles have lost colour. To make needles beam with colours again, replace karma crystals with Tara crystals, and through Zemun, restoring strings. Zemun is Ursa Minor, which houses the pole star Polaris. 142. Once again will beam celestial needles and Vitmaras will answer your call, or blinkers. Faith in the success of your glorious deeds, this is what is the most important at this time. If deeds are fastened with faith, what can hinder deeds from happening? Only in labour created by community you will cover your kins with glory. Only by uniting all kings by ancient faith will you defend your beautiful Midgard. And that last section is an important message to the village once you connect the dots. But it also plays out on a much wider scale. 143. Ancient connections will be restored again, and to calls of descendants will respond the ancestors. Aliens won't be able to prevent this, for they will be exiled to hell from Svarga. But remember, people, that enemy is revengeful and just pretends that it does not care about Svarga. But actually hiding from looks will be maturing a weapon of revenge. They don't know about honour and heavenly truth, for there is no conscience in their hearts, no integrity in essence. 144. Aliens have destroyed many Earths in different systems of Svar's circle. Black envy darkens their minds. When they see prosperity of each other, envy, deception, desire for another's, that is their objective, even in the hellish world. And that is why aliens try to conquer everything in Svarga and the between world. Remember, people of the great race, everything I told you on this beautiful evening. The main thing is that for your descendants, this knowledge will not be useless. Final piece tonight. Nearly 4 hours, just short. As an addition, I've been sent some information which I think will be useful to tie some things in. Is because amongst the Slavic Aryan nations, the polar star is called Na, N-A. And this is in honour to the goddess Tara. Let's see if we can end on a high note, or even a deep pondering. We are the children of the sun, the song says, and in theosophy it is believed that the 7 stars of the Pleiades focuses the spiritual energy of the 7 rays from the galactic logos. So the 7 stars of the Great Bear, which is Ursa Major, and then on to Sirius, and then to the sun, and then to the god of earth, it says, Sanat Kumara, and finally through the 7 masters of the 7 rays to the human race. But the 7 master of the 7 rays is the overviewer. Remember the drawing I showed many of you of the single point of light or information, and how you only see from one point, but when you go behind it, it becomes 7 points or rays. Now, Sanat Kumara is regarded as the Lord or Regent of Earth and of humanity, and he is thought to be the physical incarnation of the planetary logos, the living being that ensouls this planet. Except the planetary logos is a female, not male. And that is explaining the fall of the divine feminine and being replaced by dark force aliens. Sanat spawned from the words Santa and Satan. Elena Blavatsky asserted that Sanat Kumara belonged to a group of 30 beings called the Lords of the Flame, who were from the planet Venus. And in the Judeo-Christian tradition, these same beings are presented as Lucifer and the angels who fell from the Godhead to earth. But the planet Venus is not the main planet of this solar system. It is Midgard. And Venus was Luciferia and female, not Lucifer, the overlay male. Lucifer signifies the fall of the Logos in this planetary system. And the Hindu or Indian version is the bastardized and dark forces version of the Vedic teachings, replete with dark forces entities. And here is an example of it. During the Buddhist ceremony and at the apex of the full moon in May, what a coincidence, the solar bardoas were in May. And was it another coincidence that our members undertook special trips in May this and last year? When the sun is aligned with the constellation of Taurus, it is believed that the Gautama Buddha briefly descends into the valley, bestowing a blessing on those who attend and all of mankind. And during this time, the Lord of the solar system, or the solar logos, is believed to release cosmic energy to Earth in order to keep our planet's cosmic energy in balance. The Lord, by its name, was an impostor, like the male god of Earth, and also for many centuries the solar logos, Ra, the serpent god. Now, thankfully, much of those dark entities have now been replaced, and the solar logos original has returned, as has the divine feminine energies. And this is why the clowns are panicking. They have lost their battle and are reduced to playing child-level games. Adult thinking and actions have and will prevail. And so there you have it. What do you make of all of that? Sad, shame, guilt, despair of how we all fell so far down. We all forgot the collective teachings and wisdom and just sailed through lifetimes like a shipwreck when calmer waters were available to us. The Time River portions of this piece bears a reminder. Does go with the flow now make more sense? Ride or skim the wave also, as above, so below. Is there any doubt at this point this is not unfolded here? It matters not which colour, skin or race you are listening or reading this piece. What matters is, will you adapt to the teachings of how to be and act in a much more adult-based way? And yes, if you are black-skinned in the modern day, the passages of non-mixing will come across as racist, but it is but mere geneticism, not racism. With the adult understanding of geneticism, those passages will make more sense. We assumed we are all the same. In essence, as humanoids, we are. But we were not from the same planet or even the same solar system. It is from that understanding and the perspective the URS spoke. But we are not all so different. When a black male or female brings a white partner into the fold, it is frowned upon in the community. The same applies with black and Hispanic, and the natives with other races, not to mention the Jewish race and their no-mixing Talmudic law. Why? Not because of racism, because it is genetic coded memory. And maybe the balancer in me at times reaches too far of how I think we should all come and stick together. I fail to see why our differences cannot be set aside and become friends and working colleagues while sticking to the genetic boundaries. And perhaps that can only come about when all the Jewish narrative falls and the truth is revealed on a wider scale, not just from THI. Our fall and decay was not from the mind, but the heart. We replaced understanding with illusion, mind memory and lies. We replaced abilities with technology, and worst of all, replaced love with fear. Ancient knowledge and truth have become unbelievable to a mass of people too lazy to not learn a script given to them by their slaved masters. God's teachings and helping people without idolatry, but with humility, truth, honour, integrity and respect, minus the anger management issues that imbued all the other gods. A god is a helper and service to others. The gods of the Bible were service to self. Big difference. The Vedas are the path to enlightenment for us all. Whilst THI has its own blueprint of life, we are but a mere copy of the original blueprint, the Vedics. And this is a show for all to study and act upon. It is not entertainment. It is how to operate in the best way in this game of life, so that you are reminded of what is contained in all of your DNA codes but forgot. Think deeply on this last piece and observe our world of the past decade and what is unfolding now. All destructive fire of retribution of forces of light will burn minions of the world of darkness and all descendants of alien enemies, which were filling the whole human world with spiritual emptiness, carrying on their banners of lie and vices, laziness, cruelty, desire for another's, lust, fear and lack of self-confidence. It will be a great end of the world for alien enemies who came from the dark world. And it will become the end of time of darkness for all kings of the great race and the descendants of the heavenly kin. I will repeat again, is there any doubt at this point? This has not unfolded here. This will go down as one of the great shows of THI, but it will carry so much more. A frequency of hope that the end is near. A frequency of spirals that will permeate all over the world. That puts the old world and the new world on notice. The march to a better planet strives forward, and it cannot be stopped by clowns, fake gods, family or their army of minions, only by us not doing our part in it. How quick the transition is depends solely upon us all coming together. A THI hammer of epic proportions. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now. Final word. How do we accomplish this? You fight for love, not fear it. You embrace love, not fear it. You be love, not fear it. You make love, not fight with fear. Good night.